Hello, everybody. I would be grateful today if I could have a few minutes of your time as we share together for a little bit. As you well know, these are hard and difficult times that we are living in. The coronavirus, among other things, has created a time unlike any other time in our lifetimes. We know that there are no easy answers to the complex situations that we find ourselves in. As Christians, we are always driven by God's greatest commandment to love the Lord our God with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love our neighbors like ourselves. This is the essence of worship. But what does it mean for us when we talk about how we worship God? What does it mean for us when we talk about gathering in person to worship God? Some of us feel that the best way to love God and love others in this time is to continue to worship in person, no matter how bad the virus may get. In fact, we get angry if we would consider not continuing to do that and gather in person for worship. And some of us feel that the best way that we can love God and others at this time is by not continuing to worship in person in order to keep others safe. And we get angry if there are folks who decide to continue worshiping in person. So what is it that we do? No matter what decision is made, some of us will feel like our choice and our desire has been ignored, and that will anger us. So again, what do? I want to make this suggestion for us today. I want to suggest that we think a little bit less about ourselves and exactly what we want and what our desires are, because I don't really think it's a worship issue that we're facing. I think we are facing a heart and humility issue. At Christmas, God gave away, out of love, his only son. And I would invite us to adopt a similar posture. Can we give ourselves away? Can we seek a supportive and unified approach, even with decisions made that we may not fully agree with? If we really want to offer a unique and Christian witness to the world right now, I suggest we begin here with a heart display that is different from what we find in the world, by daring to model love even when we don't always agree on everything or see eye to eye on everything. A good friend of mine recently pointed out a rather haunting passage of scripture, at least to me. It's the very last sentence in the book of Judges, the very last one. Check it out sometime. The book of Judges describes this downward spiral of God's people, where God is raising up one deliverer after another, after another, after another, and each deliverer is essentially less effective than the previous one, until there is this downward spiral resulting in complete chaos and ugliness in their society. Life is a complete mess. Do you know why? The very last words of Judges tell us, Judges 21:25, in those days Israel had no king, and everyone did as they saw fit. Let me repeat that last part. Everyone did as they saw fit. There was no sense of loyalty or devotion beyond themselves and what they wanted. Everyone had become their own authority and acted on their own opinions of what was right and wrong. I think that we're in such a time like that right now. If someone or something does not jive with our preference, we disown them, we do our own thing, we go our own way, we leave, we disparage, we get upset, we get angry, and the result, as it was in Judges, is a complete mess. I share this because I also report to authorities. I too have supervisors that I am called to submit to, and my direct authorities are called district superintendents and a bishop that I report to. This past week, we received word from our bishop and the entire cabinet that our bishop serves with that we are being asked at this time to halt indoor worship experiences and gatherings because of the rise of COVID at this time across our state and our area. I don't know what emotions rise up within you when you hear that directive. My guess is that some of you rejoice hearing that news, You believe that's the right step, and my guess is that some of you have feelings of anger rise up because you believe that is the wrong step. But here's the thing. If we all just keep doing it as we see fit, doing what we prefer and the way that we like it, and then leaving when others do not do it the way we want them to, we too will spiral downward into chaos and messiness. There will come a time when our own circle of friends and partners in life, those that we are connected with, will grow smaller and smaller and smaller. And our isolation and our fracturing will only grow and grow and grow because there's nobody out there that agrees with us 100% of the time. For me personally, I believe worship is absolutely vital to who we are, and that we are called to do whatever we can to stem the tide of the effects of the coronavirus in whatever way we can to help love our neighbors. Moving forward, we are going to continue to be the church no matter what. We will continue to love God with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and we will seek to love our neighbors as ourselves. There are times when issues of church doctrine and faith are at stake, and we need to take a stand against what a particular authority may issue in those instances. And when or if those times arise, let me assure you, I will be the first to stand against such false declarations. But this is not one of those times. There may be disagreement on how best to love God with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and our neighbors in this pandemic season. But this is not an issue worth fracturing, having division, going our own ways, or doing only as we see fit, as Judges puts it. Therefore, in consultation with our church leadership here at First Church and in consultation with our staff team, this is what I want to ask you today. For the sake of our witness, for the sake of safety of our neighbors in this pandemic season, for the sake of less mess, and out of respect for what our authorities have asked us and directed us to do, I am asking us at this time to suspend our in-person worship for the next number of weeks. We will still have online worship. We will still figure out ways to experience Christmas Eve. We will still be church, but for a season, we will be suspending our indoor worship experiences and gatherings effective immediately. At this point, it's my hope and expectation that we can join together again starting Sunday, January the 10th. This suspending will not go on forever, and for now, we will hope that on January the 10th, we can be at a place where we can start again our in-person worship. Very truthfully with you, I fear that what I've just shared will alienate some of you. And very truthfully, I share with you, I fear that what I just shared with some of you will anger you. But as I have sought and prayed God's wisdom, I do not fear that I will disappoint God with this decision, for God knows my heart and my intent, and that gives me peace. Church, if we are just going to keep on going with what we see fit and run away out of frustration or anger every time something does not go our way, we will end up in the very chaos and mess that the people of Judges were in. This step of suspending our in-person worship and gathering for now until January 10th, it is not what I would want. It's not how I want to exist as church. But here's the thing. Worship isn't about us. Worship is about God. This is what our authorities are asking us to do, and so we seek to honor our authorities. The choice that we are making allows us to avoid put anyone in harm's way through a worship indoor gathering. This choice allows us to support our healthcare workers. It allows us to support our students and hopefully get them back into schools full-time without having to think twice about it. This choice helps us to be able to do what we can on our end to lessen the caseload in our hospitals. This choice allows us to help others to have less fear. This choice allows us to set an example that shows we are more concerned with others than even our own personal preferences. And as Christians, we are called to do that. Again, we are not suspending forever. I'm hoping January 10th we'll be able to come back. we will find other ways to be church in the meantime. We will be more diligent than ever to be God's church. We're not suspending being church. God's church has always thrived in difficult times. In the book of Acts, when the church faced persecution, instead of wilting, the people of God grew stronger in their identity. They were pushed to new places. They began being church and doing church in new places that had never before existed. I trust the same will happen now if we keep our eyes fixed upon Christ. It's okay to grieve. It's okay to express disappointment. I am dealing with my own elements of those emotions. But in this time, may we choose to move forward together as the church, because the church is not defined by any four walls of the FEC or the Christian Life Center. It is defined by the people of God. Throughout these times, I have constantly been praying James 1:5. If any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to him. I know that I need wisdom in this time. I know I cannot make a choice that pleases everyone, but I can seek God's wisdom and, to the best of my ability, live into God's desire for us all. I love you, First Church. I love our neighbors. And I will do everything that I can to help us live as faithful followers of Jesus Christ, loving God with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and loving our neighbors as ourselves at the same time. May this be one of those times that we look back on someday and say, my goodness, that was a rough time. I hope I never have to go through that again. But by God's grace, just when we thought everything might fall apart, God did a mighty work. And the church became stronger than ever. We can come out of this stronger, church. We will, by the grace of God, come out of this stronger. So hang in there with me. We're going to get through it together in God's grace and in God's love. And remember that in Jesus Christ, the worst thing is never, ever the last thing. You are an amazing people, First Church. It is my profound privilege to serve with you. I love you. Now let's live and be God's church now more than ever before. And let us move forward, not only doing what we think is right in our own eyes, but with our eyes fixed upon Christ and the wisdom that God gives. Ask him who leads and guides us all to lead us into the future, unafraid, as a unified people of Jesus Christ. In the Spirit of Christ, may it be so. Thank you for letting me share with you today, First Church. I wish God's blessing upon you.